Good evening, folks, and welcome to day 18 of the beer advent calendar. Basically, typical advent calendar, except for instead of chocolate, you get a beer behind each store. And this one is actually a German beer calendar, so it's all German lagers. They're mostly small breweries in Germany, so it's not beers that you're typically going to see here in North America. So let's get right to it. Day 18. Not sure which beer I'm getting, however, I do know the beers that are in the box as they're labeled here, but I don't know which beer which day. So far I've had several Hells, a couple Marzens, a couple wheat beers, one or two Pilsners, and so far I've yet to have a bad beer. Obviously some I enjoyed more than others, but I've yet to have a really bad beer. Alright, day 18, let's see what the beer gods are going to give us today. So I'll just lay it there. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to wait till I zoom in, and that way you guys can see which beer it is. And I'm looking at the box here, just from the color. Not sure how well you can see that. A lot of times the germs, or the bottle, or the cans are totally in German, so you might not get much of it. But a few have actually been in English, so it's a crapshoot. Alright, let's see what we got. We have another Hells. Ding, 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 ding. Name the brewery. Kurpfalzbrau. A traditional brewed in the heart of Germany. And Hells, the word Hells, it's the translation in English is basically, I think it's bright, or it might be pale, something like that. So basically it's a light colored beer. It's pretty close to a Pilsner. It's normally a Pilsner with a little bit of oomph to it. 5.3% alcohol. Other than that, not much information. So, I'm going to use my Pilsner glass. I don't have a Hell's glass. I don't even know if there is any such thing. But like I said, it's like a Pilsner. It's a light beer. And one of the big things about the Pilsner glass is that it's narrow and tall, and one of the reasons for that is it shows off the color and the carbonization of the beer. You got to realize, back in the day, beers were normally in like ceramic or earthenware. It wasn't anything you could see through. So little things like color carbonization wasn't an issue because you couldn't really see it. And when glass was invented, or not when it was invented, when it became more common, basically, actually the glass, my understanding, it became industrialized because before it was all done by hand, and the only people that really had glass were the elite, the royalty, and whatnot. And then when glass became the Industrial Revolution, they started making it on a mass production. That's when the masses actually started using it. They were actually flabbergasted by the color of beer and whatnot. So there you go. All right, so we'll pour it up. As I said, I knew it was going to be pretty light colored, and that's typical of a Hells. I like lighter beers, like I like my Pilsners, I like my Hells. I don't mind dark beers, but my go-to beer would be a lighter beer. Alright. A nice aroma to it. It's typical lager aroma, like there's nothing really that stands out. Nice color, nice crystal clear. Taste wise, let's see. Not bad. Nothing really jumps out at me. It's a pretty easy drinking beer so far. Enjoyable. If you're a Pilsner drinker, I would say for the most part you'll enjoy a Hells. Alright, so I'm going to check the app, and the app I've been using, it's mentioned in the box, it's beertasting.app, And basically the way it works, you take a picture of the can or the bottle or the label, it checks their database, and if they have it, they'll give you a little couple sentences about it. And actually, they're involved with the beer calendar as well, so they have on their homepage, it's like beer of the day, and it's normally the beer that's in the calendar. Now, they've had a couple beers of the day from the calendar, but it wasn't the same ones that I've had, so I don't know if there's different versions of the box or what the case might be. But I'll take a picture. Boom. We'll read a little bit about it. I might taste it again. Okay, so they just say Hell's Lager, 5.2% alcohol. The can says 5.3. It's bottom fermented. That just means it's a lager. It says it brewed according to the original recipe of 1950. So not that old when you can. Some of the beers, I mean, they're all brewed according to the purity laws of 1516. And some of these breweries have been around for 100 years. I think there was one, geez, I think it was 1311 or something. Say also the label design comes from this time. Really traditional beer. It pours light yellow and clear with a small white head. Exactly what we got. The first sip of this beer specialty is malty, accompanied by a subtle bitterness. Perfectly balanced, easy to drink, and highly recommended. And let's see what they're going to say on their homepage. A lot of times this book won't be the same as what I just read, but I'll read it anyways. It says, thanks to the old master brewery Hans Hirsch and his wife Liesel, that new Kurpfalzbrau beers are now available. Because their recipes have been kept in secret, now inspired the master brewers again. In addition to the recipes, Hans Hirsch's certificates also appear. Certificates from the Domens Brewery Academy in Munich, which was still very young, around 1900, and the certificate from the master's examination that Hirsch passed in Mannheim in 1920. Before he came to Schwarzweitzingen in 1919 and married Johann Wells' daughter Elizabeth, he worked in breweries in Munich and Amsterdam. From there he brought with him a wide variety of beer recipes noted in booklets and on notes. It says, Wells' CEO Max Spleiman is a great-grandson of Hans Hirsch. Especially during his training as a master brewer, he worked intensively on the old documents from Hirsch's time and learned a lot in the process. Hirsch obviously passed on his interest in beer recipes to his great-grandson Max, who, by the way, also did his master's breweries and beer sommelier training at Domens in Munich almost 100 years after his great-grandfather. And that's about it. I'm just going to see in the book what they say about Hell's. I think I might have actually read some stuff from here already. Yeah, I did. So I'm not going to read the first paragraph, as I already read that. It says, Hell's, meaning pale in German, is a session beer of Bavarian beer gardens. The success of the Hell style around the turn of the 20th century caused a furor among traditionalists who considered dark beers the only real Bavarian lager. There you go. Alright, so I have to give this beer a rating, and my ratings, as per usual, is out of 5, a 1 being a drain pour, a 2 being not a fan but I'll finish it, a 3 being a good beer, a 4 being a very good beer, and a 5 being the best beer ever. So for this one, I think I'm comfortable giving this one a 3.5, so that's between a good beer and a very good beer. I was almost tempted to give it a 5, but for me it is easy drinking, but there just seems to be something missing. Not in a bad way. Like, to me, this kind of tastes a little bit more like a Pilsner than a Hell's. Pilsners are normally a little bit lighter, whereby the Hell's is a tad more full-bodied, a little bit more oomph to it, I find. Not getting this. This is kind of a little more like a Pils. And don't get me wrong, a 3.5 for me is a good rating. That's, like I said, is between good and very good. And that's a strong 3.5 at that. As I said, I'm tempted to give it a 4. Yeah, I think I'll give it a 3.5. And that being said, that's a strong 3.5. So here you go, folks, for this Hell's from Kurpfalzbrau 3.5. So hopefully you can join me tomorrow when we hit day 19 and find out what we got. Just to see what we have left in the box. We have a pale Hefeweizen, which is basically a wheat beer. We got a dark Doppelbock, so that's basically a double strong beer, which is dark, obviously. A Vienna Lager, which I'm really looking forward to. An Imperial Pilsner, which is interesting. And we have another German-style Pilsner. And we have another Helles. I thought we had another Marzen, but it doesn't look like it. So here you go, folks. We're getting close to the end, so hopefully you can join me for the next couple, and we'll see where we go. There you go, folks. 3.5. Until next beer, as always, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.